Hello, hello. Welcome to the PG-ish podcast. I'm Erin, a corporate marketing manager by day, podcast host by night, and single mom to 2 young daughters 24/7. In short, PG-ish parenting is the cliff notes to personal growth as a parent. Since those kiddos are always watching and learning from the adults in their life, like you, PG-ish is parenting guidance-ish to support a life worthy of imitating. Welcome and enjoy. From the moment I met Lindsay Hancock last spring, I knew she was something special. As we dove into all sorts of topics from family to business to finances to date nights and to strategy, I knew you needed to know her also. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you're a busy mom juggling your family, your health, your friends, volunteer opportunities, you name it. Or maybe you feel like you're just running in that hamster wheel and not really going anywhere. Or you know it's possible to change, but you feel guilty for taking the time to focus on the things that you want. Well, this interview is for you. After more than a decade of national and international strategic business consulting, Lindsay realized her innate passion was empowering individuals to achieve the same level of internal success as her Fortune 500 clients. Lindsay uses the same tools she has used with industry moguls to help clients determine who they are, what their purpose is, and where they're going. Lindsay will help you to develop a personal strategy to achieve happiness, fulfillment, and success while providing you with actual actionable tools to achieve it. Let's dive in. Lindsay, I'm so excited to have you on PG-ish today. I met you at Mom 2.0 a while ago. This year has flown by, but I was super bummed to meet you on the last day because your energy was contagious and I felt like you had this secret. But it was like a secret to share with everyone. You just wanted to tell everyone of how to be more intentional and how to strategize. And I think for moms, we always feel like we have a bazillion tabs open in our brain, same with our to-do list, and just feel like we're never making progress and getting ahead. So I would love for you to share all that you do. I mean, you have been working in this world for a long time and you have helped Fortune 500 clients. So how do you help moms?
Yes. So, Erin, I always say strategy is the way. Nobody that accomplishes anything great in this world, whether it's Oprah building an empire or Elon Musk or, volunteers, or we truly can't accomplish anything worthwhile without a strategy. And my background is I'm a strategic consultant. And it's so funny because I think that word strategy gets thrown around a lot and people don't actually understand what it means. So the first and foremost, I want to get really tactical so that all of the listeners, you can walk away with a clear strategy for what am I doing in life? And the very first thing is determining what success looks like. It blows me away when I meet executives or moms or dads or people and I ask them, I love asking this question, what does success for you look like? And they always look at me with kind of this blank stare. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I think if we don't stop and define what success looks like, somebody else will define it for us. Whether that's in your home, in your career, in your physical health, in your mental, emotional, you have to clearly say, this is what I am attempting to achieve. This is what my target is. Otherwise, you're just shooting and you don't even know if you're hitting anything because you don't know what the target is.
Yeah, that's so good because like I said, we always have these to-do lists, but we never really stop to think about the end goal or what is that success going to look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I have clients go through, there's a really awesome process and I'm happy to share this with listeners, but it's called the Eisenhower quadrant and it just kind of helps make decision making. So it's a 4-point quadrant. And then the first quadrant you put, is it important and urgent? Mm-hmm. And then in the second quadrant, is it important but not urgent? And then the third quadrant, it's important but not urgent. And then the fourth is not important and not urgent. And that one I say, don't even do those. But it's funny because we look at things and it is so hard being a parent, right? We have dentist appointments and after school activities and PTA and volunteering and work and grocery shopping and meal planning. And it just gets so overwhelming. And I think the challenge is we live in a world of social media and Pinterest where it appears that everybody's doing everything very well. Mm-hmm. And that sounds a little tricky because we have a whole course and platform called How to Have It All. And I always tell people, yes, it's how to have it all, but your all, Erin, and my all are very different,
Exactly.
right? And it's so important that we build our strategies to achieve the success that's important to me and the success that's important to you. And they look differently.
So would you start with that first, the Eisenhower quadrant? Would you start there, or would you more look kind of internally as like, who am I? Like, what is my purpose and mission?
Yes.
As a mom in this home, as a working mom, like, where do you even start?
That's a good question. Okay, first thing to start, in fact, it's so funny. People always say, what is strategy? Strategy is figuring out the end from the beginning and saying, I want to get here, and then building a plan backwards and saying, okay, what are the things I need to do to get there? Okay, so almost a decade ago, a long time ago, I was working and we had a very large corporate retailer approach us. They wanted us to broker a product in. Long story short, I realized there was nobody in the marketplace that had a unique value proposition. They were all kind of the same. So we created a company and said, hey, what if you do this? Here's a brand. And it happened to be with bath bombs. And they said, great, we love it. We'll put you in one store in 1 month. And I said, no, this is just the idea. I don't have a manufacturer. I don't have packaging. I don't have labeling. I don't have all of that. But I knew with a strategy, I could do anything. And so we mapped out our strategy, get in one store. We built out the plan and we ran like crazy. And we did it. And then we went to 6 stores. And then we went to 30. And then we went to 90. And within 9 months, we were in 140 stores.
Oh my gosh.
This retailer was making $250,000 purchase orders. It was crazy. Long story short, we had a VC firm that approached us to buy out some of our equity. And we'd grown this company so fast that I had hired friends and family and teenage girls. And I was like, anybody that you can breathe, you're on my team.
Yeah.
So when this VC firm approached us, I asked them, I said, hey, I don't need money. I need executive leadership. So they were going to buy out a portion of our company. We were super excited. And I was running 2 companies at the time. The company that I got the relationship first, right? We would do consulting and brokerage, and then this new bath bomb company. And I had learned how to do all this because I had amazing mentors when I lived in Asia, and they kind of taught me how to do everything. I'm like, hey, if I do it in international sales like Tony Bianco, I'm fine. If I do this like Rohan Thakur, I'm fine. If I do this like, Scott Marshall, I'm fine. And I would just copy what they were doing. And it's amazing because as we started to do this, and, I was exhausted. I was burning the candle from both ends. I don't know if you listeners, you're like driving in your car, you have groceries in the back that are melting. You're going to a PTA meeting. You've, picked up the dog from you have so many things on your plate. Yeah. And that's how I felt. I was just drowning. And this VC firm approached us. They said, hey, we want to buy out this percentage of the company. Lindsay, we just need you to work as the CEO for 1 year. And I thought, that's easy. I've already been doing this. And I went home that night and I was working on the strategy and got up in the middle of the night. I'd nursed my newborn baby, and my 2-year-old's kind of wrestling in the bed in the office. Her bedroom was next to my office. And I'm reviewing my strategic template. It's like one simple paper, you guys. On the top is your mission, and then your vision, and then your core objectives to get there, right? So I was building it for this company. We were going to try to hit 10 million in sales. And I'm like, hey, this is awesome. These are just the 3 things we need to do. And as my 2.5-year-old, I thought she woke up, and I was so angry. And I just thought, how I can't do this. And I don't know if you parents have ever felt that way when you're like, I literally can't do this. I can't do everything that I'm doing and get up with you. It's 5 a.m. and then I have to nurse the baby, and then I have to shower, and then I have to get ready for this pitch. And we're trying to do like family scripture study in the morning. It was chaos.
Yeah.
And I immediately just had this thought go through my mind, like, oh, if I didn't have kids, I could grow this to 100 million. Mm-hmm. And that thought, Erin, crushed me because it took us years to get pregnant. We fought so hard for our family. And I realized I dropped down to my knees and I prayed like I've never prayed before, but I just felt stuck. I was overcommitted to too many things. I was overwhelmed. I felt like I had to show up and be perfect to everybody else, that I was being negative and mean to my family. Mm-hmm. And I remember praying and getting this crystal clear thought. And it was not my own, because as I just prayed to God, like, how do I get out of this? I felt like I was in prison, because I can't, if I close down the company, I'm going to have to fire friends and family. We had a whole manufacturing line. I'm not going to be able to help my parents retire, like all of these dreams that I had. And I had this thought, and it came to my mind, and it was, Lindsay, I've already taught you everything you need to know. And so I opened my eyes and I look on the table, and there's the 2 strategies for my company. companies, and I was scaling them like, okay, the answer is strategy, the answer is strategy. And nowhere on there was God. Nowhere on there was Lola or Penny or Ben, my two kids and my husband. And I realized I know how to get anything done. We've grown, companies, we've consulted billion-dollar companies, anything we've ever wanted to do. We're like, oh, just apply strategy and it works. But I'd never done that for my personal life. And so I realized, wait a minute, the process is the same. I just need to do this for my personal life. So what does success look like? Including business, because I love business, including my family, including my faith, including my marriage. And so I got out a scrap piece of paper and I documented what my personal strategy was, right? What is my mission? What is my vision? Where do I want to end up? And Erin, as I've had some major health issues and some crappy diagnoses, and I've been throwing up for 30 days straight and have had more MRIs and scans, and it's been hard, but I'm like, I know what my vision looks like. And things sometimes you have to tweak and change, but it enables you to eliminate all the crap that doesn't matter to you. And it's funny because when you start to build out this process for this is what a life of success looks like, it forces you to ask yourself what a life of success does not look like. So for me, as much as like, I want my girls to have cute, picture perfect hair and wear the Janie and Jack boutique clothes that I got for them.
Right.
They don't. They wear like the t-shirt that they got from a friend from a birthday party because they didn't have something to change into, and they wear it every day. Or the camp conservation park they went to, the free t-shirt that they love. And it's hard because when I ask myself every night, like, so what I do is I build out a whole strategy. And then what are actual actionable goals? So for example, if you think, okay, I always use this example and it's kind of dumb, but my marriage lately, when you're married and you're working and you have kids and it's hard, you feel like your ship's passing in a night and you're like, wait a minute, where did our relationship go?
Yeah.
And that's why there's so much, divorce, because it's hard. You have to work on your marriage. And I realized our marriage was headed down there, and I came up with very specific goals, just like I would for my business. So if my husband and I are losing our intimacy, I'm like, great, that needs to go on the weekly goal. And so for a while, it was just getting back, like kissing him. And so I would put a goal that you cannot go up in your office and work unless you've made out with bed. We've been married 15 years. We're not like newlyweds, but I wanted that spark back. And so I actually build it into my strategy. Okay, so what does that look like?
Yeah.
What does it look like to have a relationship with God? What does it look like to have a relationship with my kids? If I want to have this type of relationship when they're 16, I have to start when they're 6 and build.
Exactly.
So we have like KPIs, just like in a business, key performance indicators. We have quarterly reviews as a family. We literally lay out every step to make sure we're working on it. And it's funny because it sounds overwhelming, but now we're just in the habit. I ask my girls every night, how did I help show you love today? Or how did you feel loved today?
Yeah.
And it's just these little triggers that I know, meeting them after school with a snack is really important.
Yeah.
And, so wow, I talked a lot.
No, I love all of that. And I think we have to be intentional, right? Because we have so many ideas and those ideas float around in our minds, and yet we don't take action on so many of them. And especially with our families, there's so many times where, like you were mentioning, that we give our family the worst because we've given our best to everyone else just to hold it all together during the day. And our kids do this too. They come home from school and they've held it all together at school, and then they like melt and you're like, why me? But it's like, it's a safe place.
It's a safe place. It's so true.
But we also want to love on our family and not like take our worst out on them. So I think that intentional piece is so key to so many things, right?
Yeah. And get your kids involved in it. Ask them. Like we talk to my kids, and success like I always say, no success can compensate for failure in the home, because these are the lives we live. And I'm so sick of, I work with a lot of corporate executives and they hit the $1 billion mark and they turn around to share this beautiful life they've created and there's nobody left. And it's devastating. Right. But if we're intentional and even having these conversations with our kids, like, how do you want me to show up as a mom? And it's funny, sometimes my kids, I have a 6-year-old and she's like, well, let me eat candy and watch TV all day. And I'm like, okay, but my goal is that you know who you are, you know what you're capable of, and you share your talents with the world. I can't let you eat like, do you see? And we can have this dialogue, and it's
Hmm.
amazing what 6-year-olds can come up with when they know that you have shared aligned goals for each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, just modeling that to your kids is so important. I mean, that's almost better than school, right? Like you're giving them this framework to grow up to be a better, successful adult too, because so many of these conversations are not had anywhere.
Yes. Well, and they realize what it takes to get there, right? I have a little girl and she's like, I want to be one of the best ballerinas in the world. I'm like, okay, awesome. We will support you in that, but this is what it's going to require of you. And
Hmm.
she's like, yeah, mom, I don't know if I can do that. And then, okay, awesome. But just know, it's like to be the best ballerina in the world.
Right.
I mean, we don't live in Russia where you're practicing
Yeah.
ballet for 12 hours a day. But what, and then we go through like root cause analysis and figure out, and she's like, I just want to dance on stage. Okay, you don't have to be the best ballerina and practice for 8 hours a day, you know? So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it always starts with what does success look like?
Hmm. And I love how simple that is. And like you were saying earlier too, it really cuts down to the core. You're cutting off the superfluous stuff that we think we might need, but ultimately in the end, you don't at all.
No.
You just are getting crystal clear on the actionable steps that is going to
Yes.
lead you to success.
And I think asking yourself too, because once you clearly define success, then you can ask yourself, like, get crystal clear where it's one sentence, you can repeat it to everybody else. And then as things come up and you say, is this going to get me closer to my version of success?
Hmm. You kind of touched upon this earlier too, of how personal each person's journey is and how success is going to look differently. And I think so many of us struggle with the idea of joy too, of just like you think it's going to come naturally. But I think joy is something that we have to be intentional about too, because I think our attitudes get in the way sometimes.
Yes.
Can you talk about a little bit of like how you find joy in the process of it and what that might look like to you?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm married to my polar opposite. He's like, all he is about joy. And like, how can we suck as much fun and joy, not even just fun, but like true joy, lasting joy out of our lives?
Yeah.
So it's funny because sometimes I have to learn. For me, joy is accomplishment and supporting other people to achieve their dreams. And it's big, huge. Like I'm clinically diagnosed bipolar 1. Like I am manic and I have high energy. And so for me, joy is like doing these big things. And for somebody else, again, it's like, what does success look like? What does joy look like to you? It's interesting. We had a lot of people go through our program, and I realized one of the biggest challenges individuals face right now, and especially women, is understanding who they are.
Yeah.
Like we can talk about, I have women, they can tell me how many calories are in this thing, or, you know, all of these brands, all they know so much information. And all of this information is getting us to look everywhere except for us.
Hmm.
And so we worked with some psychologists and all these people and built this process to help people understand who they are. And it's really cool because it helps you go through what your core values are, what your strengths are. I am shocked how many people can't tell me their strengths.
Yeah, I believe it.
There's a cool thing that we're going to start doing and just giving people for free where they can go in. So Harvard came up with an incredible study called the Reflected Best Self Study. And it was a way to allow employees to take a look at what their own strengths were. Because if we are leveraging our strengths, we're 6 times more likely to be engaged, 3 times more likely to give up, 3 times more likely to find peace and happiness and joy. Or no, 6 times. That one's 6 times.
Oh my
So you
gosh.
think about it, you're like, if we leverage our strengths and if we don't know what our strengths are,
Yeah.
how can you be playing in your strengths? So that's something free we can give away. It's so cool. You actually send this survey out to all of these other people,
Hmm.
and then they come back and tell you your strengths. And we have our people create a reflected best self process. But when you're having a crappy day and you're like, I don't even know what I'm good at, and oh, I'm so overwhelmed, you can go look at this portrait, and we do it through like word bubbles, and there's a whole process that we outlined that we can just send to your audience that they can go through it for themselves. Or if they have a friend that's really struggling, we just surprised a friend. We had 30 people fill out a survey about her, and then we put it into a reflected best self portrait. So it's a portrait of her, but instead with words.
Yeah.
And it says every just good, amazing thing that she's good at. It's cool. It's cool.
That's
Yeah.
so awesome. I know I struggle with the mom guilt and the shame, but then also like if I'm having a hard day at work, which has been the last couple of weeks, where I feel like unheard or unseen or not providing enough value or whatever it is, I mean, it's so easy to just take on that language and that negative self-talk. I mean, you kind of wear it like a blanket, and it's like, if we have these tools where we can remove that and put on the truth, how amazing would that be?
I have an awesome friend that anytime I would have a bad day, she would say, Lindsay, you're not a bad mom. You had a bad day. Bad moms are selling meth in their basement. And I always use that example.
Yeah.
And maybe there are some listeners that are selling meth. There's hope for everybody.
Yes, there is.
There's a better path. But it's amazing that whether you believe in the adversary or opposition, of course, the adversary is attacking us with mom guilt, saying you're not a good enough mom because he knows, or dad, because the adversary knows that will literally crush us.
Yeah. That
is a beautiful thing, Erin, that you're feeling mom guilt. That means you're in tune. That means you care deeply. That means that you prioritize your children. And how amazing that at work, you're like, oh, I don't know. If you're like, I just don't care. I don't care what you think of me. It shows like you value relationships. You value, it's actually a beautiful thing. And it can help you go in, dig deep and ask. There's a process that I hired a consultant out of Canada, and I'm trying to figure out a way if we could share that with your audience. Have them message you and I can get you access to it. I just did a Zoom training with some of our individual clients on how to go through this process.
Okay.
When you have these negative thoughts, you do a positive reframe, and it helps you realize, oh yeah, of course I'm feeling guilty as a mom, but that's actually a beautiful thing. And then it's like magic. Then it allows you to okay, yep, I yelled at my kid, and of course I care. Of course I was upset, but I also teach them how to repent very quickly or how to learn to forgive. Or anyway, it's a really cool process.
Yeah, I like that. Just shifting your mindset. I mean, I tell my children that all the time of let's look at it this way, but I tend to not do that with myself. So having those tools again are so beneficial for our own personal growth.
Yes.
Do you want to share anything about your health journey and how?
Yeah. So I think this is a story of personal intuition. I felt a lump in my stomach and I knew something was wrong, went to doctors, they did exams and they're like, nope, things came back positive, you're fine. And my gut knew something was not right. So I kept pushing and these doctors were like, you're kind of crazy. This is not, you're fine. You don't need to go for it, any further testing. And my gut just said, keep going for further testing, keep going. Yeah. Anyway, so I have a mass. It's 11 centimeters in my uterus. And then I have one on my ovaries. And then they also found one on my liver.
Okay.
And I was throwing up nonstop for 4 months. I mean, I'm covered in hives. So I was so sick and so ill. And it's hard because I'm really ambitious and I have these goals in life. But my overall vision for my life is just prepare to meet God. That's it. It's super simple.
Yeah.
And it's helped me so much when businesses don't work out or partnerships don't work out or, my kid shows up to school on picture day and she wanted to do her own hair. And I'm like, oh, wow, we look like we're homeless, but prepare to meet God. And and so it's interesting as this has happened and I've gone through understanding what my core values are. And I realized I don't need to, there was one particular diagnosis that I got at the hospital and it's been challenging. They were told me I was going to have to remove my bladder and I would have to have a urostomy bag and all of these different things. And you get these sort of panicky moments okay, what if I'm not here next year for the ballet performance I have had so much peace because the last few years I've lived with such intentionality. And my goal with my girls is to help them understand who they are, help them understand what their purpose is and let them know they're loved. And as one night I was reviewing my goals and with my marriage, just our goals for that. And I realized there are these big goals I've been working towards, but I've been chipping away at them. And if I were to die young, I mean, my little girls are 9 and 6. They're still babies, right? Yeah. But they know who they are, right? They know they're children of God. They know they have unique skills and talents, and they have a unique mission to fulfill. And we've already been teaching them that. And, you know, it's just, you start to build these little things and you realize all of the other stuff is not that important. And it's given me so much peace that I had so many friends and they're like, I can't believe you're not struggling with this. I can't believe, you know, and I thought like, no, I have faith in God. In fact, it was really amazing because my whole goal this year was seek and expect miracles. So I have these buckets, right? Here's my relationship with God. Here's my relationship with Ben. Here's my relationship with the girls. And then what are the actual things that I need to do to achieve that goal? So my goal with God has been, okay, I believe in God and I have a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to push this as far as it can go. So what would be kind of outrageous? And I thought, I want to seek and expect miracles. Like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the miracles that have come,
Mm.
it's like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna let you see miracles. And the amazing thing is miracles can only come in the presence of hardship or calamity, or because there's opposition, right? They wouldn't be a miracle if it wasn't. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've had a lot of peace. And the good thing is I don't have to have a urostomy bag. And the liver, we were most worried about the liver. That came back non-cancerous. So we'll do a hysterectomy. And yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Good. I mean, that is such a miracle. So yeah, praise God
Yeah.
for that, right?
Yes.
Like you mentioned your intuition, and I love how you kept going, because I feel like in this day and age of so many voices coming at us with social media, the new, you know, all of the crap in the world, we forget how to tune into our bodies. So
Yes.
that's a miracle in and of itself that you just kept seeking answers.
And I can't tell you the number. I mean, I've been documenting and keeping a book of miracles because
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling how this friend reached out and then I shared something and it led to this friend sharing. It's beautiful. And I think, yeah, if you, again, what does success look like? For me, there has been no doubt or fear, or because I'm like, okay, I know that my goal last year was to trust God's will. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my only goal for the year, right? And so then every month I would break down, okay, what am I going to do this month to trust his will?
Yeah.
And so I had built a foundation. I knew without a doubt, God's got my back.
Yeah.
He knows me. He created me. Whatever this thing is, it's going to help me. It's going to help my family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when you're in tune with what you need and the goals that you're actually working towards, it just gives you so much more perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, you're a light to others, right? Like you're giving other people perspective. You like the community that has not only rallied around you, but that you were talking about like other doors opening. And it's like so many times we hide behind the hardship or, you know, other things that we just don't want everyone to see, the negative things or our sicknesses or our flaws. Yet that opens the door to so many beautiful things and the
Yes.
conversations that can happen. So
Yes.
that's beautiful too to hear.
It's so true. And I think one thing I want to share, that doesn't mean I've gone through things that weren't like, for some odd reason, I think we've had a lot of prayers and this hasn't been an emotional or mental challenge. It's been very physical.
For sure.
But that's not to say I mean, 2 years ago, I had a major mental depressive episode. I had just been diagnosed with bipolar. I didn't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been running on oxygen or energy for so long that my body just crashed and I mentally collapsed. I had suicidal tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
I was so depressed. And it was interesting. In that point, my husband said, "Hey, I think it's time for you to build a mental bucket and plug it right in there. God, mental health, us." And I'm like, no, you're the most important. And he's like, "Linz, if you can't mentally be there for yourself, you can't even show up for us. You need to take care of yourself."
Right.
So I don't want it to come across all sunshine and rainbows. Like, I have this incredible faith that everything's fine. I don't know why this one has been so optimistic, because I've had times where I'm like lying in a puddle on the floor and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing in life. And,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think we all have those moments, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah. I think, mental health is kind of having its day, which is great. And I think it is important to be aware of our mental health because, again, we think that success looks a certain way and that we always have to be hustling and just going, going, going and no sleep. And it's like, no, no, no. Like you have to slow down and take care of yourself so that you can show up and be that better boss or that better mom. Like you have to take breaks and
Yes.
step away from the computer because you're just going to crash and burn. So I love that you took time for yourself too.
The saddest thing that I see, and Erin, I'm like, if there is one message, yes, you can use strategy to build anything, but I hope you use strategy to build something that you love.
Yeah.
And it involves your faith, it involves your family, it involves relationships, it involves, but it kills me because I work with billion-dollar brands around the globe, high performers, successful people. I do coaching one-on-one for entrepreneurs. And it kills me when we just had a group of these incredible powerhouse, influential women at my home. And one of them said, I'm just not making enough in my business. And we kind of break down the numbers, and it blows me away that we're comparing ourselves. And she has hundreds of thousands of followers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have a following. I'm like just starting this. I have never paid it to Instagram was not success for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't paid attention to it. And then I have people on my team, they're like, no, we got to build it. And I'm like, great. If you want to do that, well, let's do that. But
Yeah.
what you see on the screen and sometimes what you see on your friends' faces is not a true representation of what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's funny. We hear this all the time. And for some reason, maybe because we spend hours doing this,
Yeah.
we can't pull our minds out of it and say, are they actually happy? Are they actually, we're in a mastermind of you have to make $1 million a year in your business to be in there that you created on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of couples that are struggling and they're struggling with kids and they're struggling, but everybody's like, no, now let's make it to 10 million and 20 million. And, we have a friend, we sit down and we're like, this is crazy. Like, what are people doing? Stop throwing away your life for more money that's not going to get you any more happy or any more peace.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I took one of my daughters to Belgium over the summer, and coming back to reality, I'm like, oh, I don't like this. Like you get so used to it of the hustle and grind and the comparison that we forget that we're all wrapped up in it and we're just on this hamster wheel. But we do have to take that time to remove ourselves to, like you were saying, go back to our values and reassess and check in with like, where are we? What are we walking toward that is actually valuable, not just to hit some random number or to achieve some sort of title at work.
It's so true. So true. What does success look like?
Yeah. I love that.
How can I help you? What is you're like, hey, this is my biggest business issue. This is my biggest family issue. This is,
yeah.
And you don't have to be super specific, but how can I help and support you?
Oh, thanks. You're so sweet. At work, I have my buckets too. At work, we've just had a lot of transition and I'm a manager. So keeping team morale up is tough. And then trying to figure out what my role is and all that too, and maybe what the next step is. So there's just some ambiguity around that right now.
I would say on that, if you wanted to, I can send you again that it's the reflected best self process. And when your team, when teammates, when any of us are playing in our strengths, we're more engaged, we're more satisfied, we're more fulfilled. I was meeting this morning, I had brunch with a executive of a large brand, and she works with major retailers. And it's so funny. I asked her this question, like, how can I help you? And she said, she's kind of maybe looking to make a move. And I said, well, what would your dream job be? And it's interesting because she said, I love building teams. And she literally lit up. The energy in the room was different.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask her, and this was my first time meeting her, so I didn't know her well, but I wanted to say, why aren't you doing that then?
Yeah.
You just explained a whole job that you're doing that has nothing to do with that. But I'm thinking if you could help your team, so you send out this reflected best self survey, it's just a Google survey, and they fill it out for each other, and they have their family fill it out, and it's like, hey, I have to, and it just spits out data that this is what Todd is amazing at.
Yeah.
This is what Todd is great at. And if you can help tweak that, yes, these things still have to get done. I still have to empty the dishes and do the laundry. I actually don't do laundry, but my husband's amazing at that. But if we still have to get this stuff done, but when we're playing in our strengths, we have better communities, we have better families. So that's something I'd be happy to share.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I love Marcus Buckingham. I actually interviewed him a couple months ago. And so like the Strengths Finder, I love that whole thing. But I'm so curious about this reflective self-best survey that you've been talking about. And actually the last team retreat that we had, I did kind of a team building session where we just ran around and told each other what we saw each other's strengths were and what we appreciated about them on our team. And everyone was in tears. And it was just like this huge love fest. I'm like, we need more of this, like in our lives in general. You know?
So true. Well, and you think this is why the adversary, opposition, whatever, attacks us saying, well, they're good at that. And you're usually comparing your worst to somebody else's best.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a friend that like wants to have 700 neighbor kids over and she's like, I'll just open my pantry and let them come in. And I'm like, that gives me more anxiety than anything in the world.
Right.
Yeah, I love to cook for people. And she's like, never sign me up for a meal train.
Yeah.
So we don't need to compare ourselves. Like, I'm good at this. You're good at this. Let's just, work together.
It's so true. I know. I mean, we need to build each other up, not tear each other down with comparison.
Yes. So true.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's work. I think life is just single mom, so like, it's just hard balancing the home and my own personal self-care routine and stuff. So it's just been tricky with the back to school time of getting back into the routine, the school drop off, pickup, volleyball, gymnastics, all of it.
I'm like, I have a few single mom friends that I'm very close with. And I'm like, I am blown away at just your capacity and capability. And because there are times my husband will go away on like a long weekend and I'm like, we're dying here. And I think realizing the Herculean effort of being a parent and then you doing it. So I think your first piece of advice, I don't know why I'm giving advice, but just realize how amazing you truly are in everything you're doing.
Yeah.
And kids are very resilient.
They are. I know. And I think my biggest complaint is always, I wish there was another adult here, just even someone just to talk to. I think that's the biggest piece that I miss, just to be able to decompress my day with someone, because I don't want to put all my burdens on my kids, right? But then I get stuck in my head and that's where it kind of falls apart.
Yeah. Well, you're crushing it. You are crushing it.
Definitely trying, that's what kind of life is like. We're always pivoting and trying new things, and the whole trial and error process. It can be scary, but also really rewarding, because then I get to meet people like you and have conversations that I wouldn't normally have. Where can my audience find you? Yeah,
so I am just starting to become more, just started kind of Instagram platform, Lindsay Rae Hancock. And that's primarily where I've been hanging out socially. We have an awesome course that we've built out. In fact, we're launching our whole new program. And if they need help building out strategies, and we have people use it for business and for personal life. And if they have a hard time understanding who they are and what their purpose is, it's called the personal asset advantage, but helping people understand their strengths, understand their purpose, and build a crystal clear strategy to achieve success. But they can go find that there. I sent you the link.
Awesome. I will include it in the show notes for sure. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Well, thank you again for coming on today in the midst of everything.
Oh yeah, no worries.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation and are able to walk away with some actionable steps to move forward. Links to Lindsay's website and her Instagram can be found in the show notes. If you find PG-ish helpful, interesting, or encouraging, please share this episode with your bestie, follow PG-ish on your favorite podcast platform, and connect on Instagram with me at PG-ish Parenting so that more parents can learn and grow alongside their kiddo like you. See you next time.